I'm going to present Francesco is a licensed psychologist in Italy. He's assistant professor of developmental and educational psychology at the Universidad de Foggia. He earned his PhD in psychology from the Università di Parma in 2015 with a dissertation on teacher approval and its effects on students' social and academic behavior. He's been also awarded the Doctor Europeus distinction after a 7-month child protection services, and then he served for 6 years as school psychologist in a middle school in Parma, Italy. This professional experience has deeply shaped his research interest, which center on school climate and student well-being, as well as teachers' well-being. His current research investigates teachers' influence on children's gender typing, with a particular focus on gender stereotypes and their role in shaping gender roles and relational dynamics. He also studies these risk factors as early risk factors for involvement in teen dating violence, which is what we are going to listen to today. Since receiving a national grant from the Italian Ministry of University and Research, Dr. Sulla has been leading a multi-component school-based intervention to prevent teen dating violence, combining classroom activities with a serious game and an online training for teachers and parents. So we're very happy to have you with us today, Francesco, because as you know, this international observatory is about closing the gaps between research, policy, and practice. So thank you, and you have about 22 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm going to share my presentation. So
there,
okay,
good.
you should see my full screen. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. As Professor Lopez was saying, I'm going to present these particular bits of my research activity about teen dating violence. When we talk about teen dating violence, we refer to the violence that is perpetrated among pre-adolescents and adolescents, mainly teen, of course, in the context of a sentimental relationship, not dates as in friendship. And we refer to mainly, well, verbal, relational, psychological, and physical violence, also sexual violence. But I mean, however, in my research project, we don't cope with sexual violence, seeing that we are actually studying the antecedents of teen dating violence and the early involvement in teen dating violence. We are currently working in both middle school and secondary school. So we decided not to deal with sexual violence in sexual teen dating violence in particular. We are talking about a public health issue, because it is estimated that about 1/3 of adolescents will experience some form of dating violence, and that the consequences of teen dating violence are really harmful for their mental health, and especially persist after a long time after the violence has ended. And it has been studied as a predictor of the future involvement in adult IPV, intimate partner violence. So that's what we are talking about specifically. So the project that Professor Lopez was talking about at the end of my presentation is a project that adopts an integrated and multidimensional theoretical framework, grounded especially in the famous multi-level ecological model, originally theorized by Uri Bronfenbrenner. also because it's proven particularly effective in understanding complex phenomena such as gender-based violence. In particular, so the project, of course, started with the study of the most recent literature, because we were looking for investigating which are the risk factors for teen dating violence within the different levels of the socio-ecological models. And of course, in the literature, we found several risk factors among all the levels of the ecological system. However, we found very small literature about the most external, levels of the model of the ecological system, in particular in the macro system, specifically cultural patterns, political and philosophies. So we've tried, before starting to collecting data on the risk factors, in particular of the teen dating violence, the project, the Ministry of the University in Italy founded our project specifically because we wanted to focus in a particular region of area of Italy, in the south of Italy, because even if we are in Italy, there is some literature, even if very less than the literature that we know about Spain and other Spanish-speaking and English-speaking country. The few data that we have are from specifically from the north of Italy. So we didn't have any, to our knowledge, to the best of our knowledge, we didn't found any data in the south of Italy. So we try to find, to study, of course, the risk factor of teen dating violence, and we designed an experimental study, which you can see here, with several components that I'm going to briefly show at the end, in order to contrast, of course, risk factors for teen dating violence in the south of Italy. But in particular, I'm going to show you today these two pilot studies, which are the ones we've already finished. That's why I'm going to focus on this. And this pilot study wanted to investigate the, in particular, cultural pattern and school policy that can become risk factors for teen dating violence. So in particular, the first pilot study wanted to study, as I was saying, school policy. It was, since there was little literature on this, and also we didn't have like a lot of example. We tried our best to operationalize school policy to our best, because of course, at least in Italy, but I guess it's similar in your countries. In school we have I'm like an old school policy about the contrast of bullying and cyberbullying, even if, I mean, the way schools contrast bullying and cyberbullying is still effective just in a way, but we don't have any school policy at the moment on like gender equality or contrast of gender violence, not to say teen dating violence. So we have to like try to take example from the study that investigated the effect of the policy on other aggressive phenomena, even because of course bullying and cyberbullying were found to be risk factors for the future involvement in teen dating violence, both perpetration and victimizations. And so we try to operationalize school policy as explicit curriculum, meaning the civic education lessons content or the content that the teachers usually convey through their subjects, and implicit curriculum, so let's say all the unwritten rules and daily practice of teachers, and also how teachers usually cope with topics like romantic relationship. So we wanted to see whether these three elements could represent the school policy, and see whether these have some effect on like a risk factor for teen dating violence. In particular, we wanted to see whether there was a discrepancy between what teachers think about what they do in this matter and what students think that teachers do, just because in order to explore more than investigate that, because we didn't have a lot of literature. We are just exploring these, as I was saying, most external elements of the Bronfenbrenner model. So these were the participants. So the students are some of the students that were involved as experimental groups in our project. However, since we didn't have any teachers that participate on the project that wanted to also participate in this particular study, the pilot study number 1, we've collected data from teachers that were attending any specialization programs at the University of Foggia. So note that the sample is heterogeneous, meaning that the students and the teachers, I mean, these teachers we are talking about, the participant teachers, were not the teachers that were teaching to these particular students. So we explore this data as a comparison perspective of the two perspectives, of the 2 points of view, but with, of course, limits in representativeness. So every area among the three were investigated with 4 close-ended items and 1 open-ended question. Just because we don't have a lot of time, I will show you for sure the close-ended items, the results of the closed-ended items, but I will try to focus on the most important analysis of the open-ended ones. So, for example, when we were talking about explicit curriculum, so as I was saying, the lesson content and the investigation of the lesson content and teaching materials, the first question was, and the question was the same both for teachers and students, was at school. Some lessons include examples that highlight diversity, meaning diverse families, non-stereotypical gender roles. And as you can see, so I've tried to represent the data in this way. I've aggregated the disagreement response and the agreement response. And as you can see, so the disagreement is this bit in red, orange. The neutral is the gray area, and the agreement is the green area. So while most of the teachers agree on the fact that at school some lesson includes example that highlight diversity, most of the students actually disagree. Second item for investigating again explicit curriculum. teaching materials, saying books, slides, videos, show people of all genders in different roles. So female scientists and athletes, or male nurses and teachers, for example. And again, while most of the teachers mostly agree, there's again a discrepancy with what students actually think about this particular matter. So here the third item was slightly different from teachers to students. I mean, for teachers was I explain that gender stereotypes exist and help my students recognize them in the media, advertising, school text and language. And the item for the students was the teachers in your class explain that gender stereotypes and etc. So it was the same. Here, as you can see, most of the teachers in our sample agreed that they explain that gender stereotypes exist and they help their students recognize them. While the students, again, there's a discrepancy because most of the students actually disagree. Last item of investigating explicit curriculum. I give example that promotes gender equality during lesson. For example, alternating male and female names, mentioning non-binary people. And for the students, of course, the teachers in your class explain that, okay? And again, there's mainly a big discrepancy between teachers that mostly agree and students that mostly disagree. Really quickly, the open-ended question investigating the explicit curriculum asked both teachers and students, in which subject do you think gender equity is discussed the most? The version for the teachers was do you reckon that in your subject you can, your subject can contribute to discuss gender equity? And in this particular sample, I need to specify that the students comes from 3 different schools, but 3 really close schools that have the same religion teachers, and a lot of students actually thinks that religion is one of the subjects where they can most cope with gender equity in during their study. So this was one of the data that mostly struck us. Another comparison between what students think and what teachers thinks is that while there's a lot of students that thinks that no subjects can cope with gender stereotypes, there is at least 3 teachers that thinks that every subject can, and most expected data is that, of course, during civic education, civic education is considered to be a subject that can be used to cope with these topics, of course. I will go quickly to the implicit curriculum. So I couldn't hear you, but I think I have like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Talking about the implicit curriculum, so not what explicit curriculum is what teachers can teach, and what I teach Italian or civic education, and my explicit contents can cope with the topic of gender equality. The implicit curriculum was operationalized instead as, for example, I encourage everyone equally, regardless of the gender, to participate, ask questions, and express their opinion. The same for the students. And here, most of the teachers, again, thinks that they do encourage everyone equally, while the students mostly agree, again, but less than teachers. I address students using the pronouns and names each one prefers. And I have to specify that Italian is a mainly binary language, doesn't have any neutral pronouns. And here, actually, teachers and students I mean, there's a less evident discrepancy, maybe because there's no students that needs probably in this school among our participants that needs to be addressed with pronouns different from their biological sex. And again, implicit curriculum at school, there is a climate in which everyone can freely express their gender identity without feeling judged. And here there's again a discrepancy. And again, implicit curriculum, I intervene when I hear jokes, insults, or discriminatory behaviors related to gender. And of course, maybe I am anticipating a limit of this research. As I was saying, the item, we had to create the item because there was, we didn't find any previous tools that could investigate this matter. So probably the way we created the item foster a little bit of desirability bias from teachers, because when we ask if they intervene when they hear jokes, insults, or discriminatory behaviors, of course most of them agree on this, while the students mostly agree, but not as much as teachers. I will go on this particular bit of the open-ended question because we also, since we were we were trying to investigate school policy, we also asked to teachers in particular whether they think that what they do or do not do in this regard can be influenced by the school leadership, by the head teachers, by the principal, or the school policy. And most of the codes in our thematic analysis were I do it regardless the leadership. I do it because I don't feel any influence from the principal, or because I feel the school is becoming more inclusive and there is progress, while less of them feel a total or partial influence that hinders the conveying of messages about gender equality when they teach. There is a latest item in particular on the romantic relationship at the school and the school roles, which is the main focus. And I will show you like this one, for example. At schools, the idea that love justifies control or jealousy is challenged for example, in this way. Again, teachers mostly agree, while students mainly disagree. Here in particular, at school, I intervene when I hear people talking about toxic or violent relationship. And again, teachers mostly agree and students disagree. In particular, in the open-ended question, we realized that in particular, students didn't actually realize, because as you can see, there is 71 codes about the students, what students replied in their open-ended questions, saying that no, I mean, in school, no, they don't hear messages that justify jealousy, but mainly they don't think that teachers care about these matters, or they do anything. I mean, they usually think that teachers care more about conveying their traditional lesson, and when there is something in the relational dynamics in their school, they think that teachers don't really care. And actually, when we focused on teachers, also some of the teachers except from of course, the answers that were more on the side of the desirability. Even some of the teachers were critically say about themselves that they don't want to, there's this expression, I don't know if it's the same all over the world, they don't want to open the Pandora vase. So they don't feel like enough effective in coping with this relational dynamics. So they prefer not to talk about it or like ignore it, but just because most of the time they don't feel like confident enough to deal with that. And yeah, that's the main research of the pilot one. So we've tried with our intervention to cope with some of these results that we found. So maybe if we have time later on, I will show you briefly like the intervention we are currently taking into school, bringing into schools from where we don't have any data at the moment, but we're trying with the intervention to reduce, of course, the risk factors for teen dating violence and reduce the levels of teen dating violence. Sorry for saying.
Thank you, Francesco. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, Francesco, and you and your team in the Universidad de Foggia. I don't know if you wish to say anything else.
No, I mean, I would like to thank all of you for all the not just question, but also some stimulation that can help improve my work. And yeah, and I hope we can collaborate again in the future, of course.
Thank you very much, Francesco.